Hey everyone, I'm gonna start the stream and just see where this goes. Seems that I'm getting a muted error. Let me know if the sound is okay. Actually, I'm gonna ask that later since there's nobody on it. Or maybe never will. Just gonna try and figure out what kind of a brush I want to use for this. I don't even remember what I used last time. I remember that I have been using the 2 pause brush recently quite a lot. Maybe Forest Trail. Okay, I'm gonna pull this out of the window so I can see what I'm doing. I'm gonna do a color crop right now. It's just I hate having that white background. I think the worst thing is that like if you accidentally paint and you have a lot of white in the background, it's just going to affect all of the colors and create this sort of like flat, milky look that I personally don't like. That's why I usually like to start out with a scribble. It's just more fun. Hey, thanks for letting me know about the sound. I have now realized that there is this one way that I can test by doing a recording with the streaming software, but when I'm testing it by playing it back, I don't know how much of that is affected by what are the sound levels of my computer. So it's impossible to, for example, to compare it against like other YouTube videos or streams. It's just, I don't know how I've been doing this for so long and still have so much guesswork involved. Guess I could be doing better. But small steps. I think every month or week you learn something new. Just recently I sent this commission and I realized that after I had sent it that the video file can't be opened on certain iPhones. I honestly didn't know that, so I found a way to save it into a format that can be opened on everything, but I just didn't know it. There are so many small technical details that you just have to accept that you are going to not know everything. Probably ever. I really like this, like the sky cloud colors here with this blue background. It's just like, yes. Also, what is this scribble even going to be? One thing I know that is I want to have these colors, right? These. I don't know. Let's just feel it. I don't know if I can capture this palette by screenshotting this thing, but if you ever want to use the kind of like similar colors like I do, I never recommend color picking my actual paintings because they have all been edited, so there is no editing room if you use those for a painting. But my palettes are free to use. You don't even have to mention me, like feel free to steal them in any of my videos. Do you plan on doing some kind of an art contest? This is a good question. I'm not going to do an art contest, probably ever. I don't see how that is in any way helpful, but I am going to do an art challenge this month. And the only thing missing is that I have 2 names that I might use for it, and I'm still kind of like deciding between the 2. I might go with the more provoking one, just because I feel like it's important and I want to call it that. Also, I have a good idea for aesthetic of the graphics that I want to use in the challenge. And just like art is my real home, like the purpose of this is I want people to at least subconsciously think about that one process that I want them to kind of like accept this as their own and find their own style. So, trying to avoid spoilers, but that is kind of the theme. And I haven't decided on a timeline yet either. Last time I set kind of like a timeline of 2 months, but then I felt like it was quite short in reality, and I felt kind of bad when people did the Art is My Real Home challenge like 2 months after it was over, and there's really no point not to do it whenever. So I think I could be just more flexible with the deadline, because the point of this is not to cause anyone like extra stress. By the way, the theme of this live stream is this, in case you haven't figured it out already. Do you have a platform where you promote other artists' works? Bromadin is asking. Yes, Instagram. When I did Art is My Real Home challenge, I think I pretty much featured everyone on my stories that just entered the contest. But I still want to feature as much art as I possibly can, but I don't want to make a promise that I will feature absolutely everyone. I will try to feature as much art as I can, but I felt like that was a huge promise to make last time, because it was so much art. And then near the end, when Art is My Real Home challenge became kind of so popular, I had noticed that some people were just using it as a platform to get their own art that had nothing to do with the challenge at all to be featured on my feed, and I just don't want to commit to anything that would make that happen again. So I don't want to make the rules too strict, but it does have to be part of the challenge, because there's a point why I have decided that the challenge is what it is. It's not just a random thing. And also the reason why I do this is because obviously there are a lot of these draw this in your style type of things on the internet, and I did it once and then I immediately realized that this is not my thing, because I felt like people were kind of just replicating my own character designs in that draw this in your style thing, and I felt like I actually like causing harm for these people not to be focusing on their own art and making them do something that I have decided too strictly on. So that's why I decided that if I ever want to do art challenges again, I want the theme and rules to be so that it will actually help people instead of just promote my own art, because I felt kind of bad about that, to be honest. I mean, it was super nice to see everyone like join, because I think the biggest fear in these things is that you do an art challenge, you have this whole amount of work that goes into it, and people don't realize just like how much work and how stressful it is to keep track of all the artwork, so that you don't actually miss out or lose people in the process, because you would want to be inclusive to everybody, and that just doesn't happen on its own, and Instagram isn't like made for this purpose. So you kind of have to do a lot of manual work to make it happen. What was I saying? I completely lost. I'm sure I was going somewhere with that. Sorry. Anyway, so I think the point is that I want to do art challenges that help develop people's own imagination and own way of expressing things. I think it's super easy and common to do art challenges that are easy to use as like a self-promotional platforms, but I have no interest in that. I think in general on social media I have this attitude that it's not as important to grow like quickly and as big as possible, but you want to have a group of people around you that like really get you and support you, and it's much more important than some like vanity metrics. To be clear, the numbers are important, like financially, and especially if you're like a freelance artist like I am, those numbers do convert into actual income that I do need to keep this YouTube channel going and so on. But if that comes at the cost of something that is more important than money, then like this is not worth doing. So there's a balance. I officially crown Mikko the king of bears. Thank you. Also, I haven't seen that emoticon on YouTube before. That looks super cool. I'm using Chrome. I don't know if it's browser specific. I know Chrome updated. Maybe they updated emojis. Okay, I really need to have like a darker tone here somehow, or maybe a lighter tone. I kind of like this tired pink hue. Maybe I should actually get the line art out. Very low opacity and multiply. Whoa, it's upside down. Actually, I can't flip vertical because that will mirror it. So 45, 45, 45. Way too high. Okay. I wanna lock this layer so that I don't accidentally paint on it, because that would be a disaster. Kate Taylor is saying, "Hello, Mikko. My name is Mikko with an M. Different thing. I'm not a brush." Recently, I seem to have a big creative block. Haven't had this before. Like, my mind just won't allow myself to free flow ideas like I used to. Have you ever had this, and how did you solve it? I try not to like say things like I have an art block. I honestly don't think I've ever had an art block. I just think that sometimes I'm tired and I need to rest, because art is work and I can't be working all the time. So sometimes I just need to take a break. But I try not to like give it some sort of like a magical label, but I think art block really is. But in most cases, and I'm not saying in all cases, in most cases that is just fear. Sorry to give some such boring answers, but in most cases it's just fear. But in some cases it can be like just really deep sort of tiredness, like burnout. And in those cases you need to recognize that you need to kind of take care of yourself and like have a break and be okay with it. I definitely have times when I don't realize that I'm working too much. And recently, when I had this like bunch of commissions that I was trying to get out of my way, and it just seemed like it was never ending. Like honestly, my initial idea was not to take on new commissions so that I could have Christmas free, and I ended up working through all of Christmas and all of January. I thought that I'm not gonna take on any new clients during January, and I didn't, but the existing ones just like kept going for that long. So that was rough. It was really rough. There were times when I would just like think that now it's time to work again. It's 2 p.m. and I have everything set up, and I was just so tired that I would suddenly fall asleep for hours on the couch, and I thought I'm going to work for the afternoon, but like sometimes I was just so tired that I would just like almost pass out. That is not healthy, and I don't think that's the way that anybody should live. I think that's one of the dangers of working for yourself, is that nobody's there to say to you that, dude, you just really need to take a break right now and do something else, like play video games or go to the gym. So I kind of have to learn to be that person for myself. I don't know why I'm feeling like this optimistic about it. Usually I have this sort of like disaster mentality at this point of our live stream, but I don't know what the actual theme beyond Switch or this painting is, but I have to say that right now I really am loving these colors, and it's interesting that this is the palette that I used for Maybe Tomorrow. And if you look at Maybe Tomorrow, it looks nothing like this. It was just the first few seconds where I used these colors in that painting, and then I completely switched it to something else. So I have never used this palette for an actual painting. And the colors are kind of right for me. It's just super satisfying. I have Switch with me here so that I can look at some of the details. I noticed already that some of the buttons here are completely wrong, and I'm missing the screen capture button, for example. But that sort of like detail polish I will probably do outside of this stream, and now I'm just gonna focus on whatever the theme is and to get that in the piece. Tim Fearin saying, would you ever think of making a Skillshare class? I'm making my own class for beginners first, and I'm not yet sure on what platform I'm gonna put that on. But with Skillshare, I think it's probably like better suited for like bigger creators, like money-wise, that have a bigger audience than I do. So it might be like a lot of trouble and then just for no benefit, so I have to be kind of careful with that. I am looking into different options, like for example Udemy, Teachable, and then there is also like video streaming on Gumroad itself, but I have to test that and see how that works, because I know that the files are going to be so large that it definitely doesn't make sense for people to actually download the video files. So the new streaming feature, that sounds interesting. If it's something that people can use on their phone, then I think that would be great, so that you could kind of like look at the materials at the same time that you're doing the work, because this course is about the people doing the course, like doing the actual work. It's not about me painting a painting and other people like painting the same painting. It's about learning the tools and the basic stuff so that you can make pretty much anything, but it's quite guided at first. It's something that I don't usually do, on this channel at all, but I want to make sure that there is like options when people are doing that course that they can make their own actual art and not just repeat an image, so that they can post something and call it their own. I think that's my ultimate goal with that. And to have it like be as quick as possible. So there's a lot of detail that I'm thinking that like, should this be included in the basics class or not? Because I noticed that there are a lot of tutorials on YouTube where you go through like all of the HUD elements first before you start painting, and at that point I think you have already lost the audience. I have taught enough art that I know how short the attention span of students is, so I want to get like the really important stuff like really quickly early on. For example, I know that a lot of people think that resolution is super important, but in the first part of that class I just say the actual resolution, that like we are gonna use this resolution, and then I'm gonna teach about the resolution later on, because it's more important to get to the actual painting first and then learning the resolution later. It is usable when you already have the basics down. There's so many comments that I am missing so many of these. Sticky Artist saying, taking a break is my problem too. By the way, I love this track so much. Now I feel bad for speaking over it. Sticky Artist saying, taking a break is my problem too. I sometimes work 10 to 12 hours a day. Wow, that does not sound healthy. I hope you can find like more reasonable schedule for yourself. I think I should cut this into 2 separate layers at some point. Is it just me, or does the screen look blacker? I don't know if that's a word. More black than the frame of it. Maybe it's because of the glossiness. I think this frame should be more matte. I'm gonna try and find a color for it. It's too short. I wish it had gone on for longer, but I ruined half of that track. Sorry. I know some people in the chat were probably like, oh, this is a nice track. No, stop talking. My god. It's funny how there are some videos where I have like 20 minutes of a talk on a specific topic, and then the comments are just like, dude, stop talking. It's like, you can always turn the sound off. Why complain about it? I have to say that one of the scariest aspects of starting a YouTube channel is that I wasn't sure if like my ego could handle the like random internet hate, and sometimes it's tough, but like I don't know, it has been like okay. I guess I have now more healthy attitude towards my own content rather than just hating all of it. I don't like that color. Too saturated. I will probably need to, I don't know. One cool way of like doing a selection is just like picking a very drastic color. What's happening? Get out. Oh. Why can't I shut this out? It's broken. Okay, now I really need to focus. What am I doing? I was supposed to do a selection. Why is this not closing? That's disappointing. Come on, Procreate. So what I'm doing right now is that I pick this like super bright color, and I am selecting the area to make its own layer. So I'm using this brush like a selection tool, because I can select this separate layer later, and this will make the selection look like it's part of the painting instead of having those like very sharp cut out looking edges. Now I'm actually like using the brush texture to create the selection. Need to see more of this. Look. I know that I try to avoid having this sort of like janitorial cleanup work not be part of my live streams, but sometimes it's just part of painting and can't be helped. I know that it's not that exciting to look at. So I just need to get this edge in its own separate layer, and then finding the right color for this pitch frame is going to be so much easier. Okay, that's it. And because it's so bright pink, easier to see where the edges are so that I can make fixes to that selection. Make sure that my eraser is set to the same brush as my brush. To forest trail. Okay. Now that I have painted this selection, I'm gonna click on this layer and select. And then I'm gonna go to the lower layer where I want to make the actual selection. Here I can make a copy and then paste. And now I have a frame done with a painted selection, so I can get rid of that selection layer. Okay, I'm gonna hit alpha lock for this, and that's going to make it easier for me to find the right color for this frame. Actually, since I wanna have some of the texturing, I'm gonna make a clipping mask. And then just use this as a guesstimation, what could work. Oh, well, that was disappointingly fast. No, I actually kind of like this. Yep, I'm gonna keep that. The reason why I did it with a clipping mask is because I wanted to have some of that texture stay in there rather than just filling out the entire thing. Mikko should really have a Discord server. On what time I would be doing that though? On the classes on the concept art classes that I have done for school, there has sometimes been Discord servers, and that's basically work of me being there and just answering questions, not usually giving feedback, because I never give feedback in text form to anybody ever. So if anyone out there is thinking that you should like send your artwork to me on Instagram and think that I'm going to comment on it, that is never going to happen, because it's just not the right format for it. Text-based feedback on paintings is probably like the worst form of feedback, especially if it's in a format where it's not like live situation, that the other person is there actively seeing what is being written, and especially when it's in a place where it's for other people. Discord would not be great for that. Do these buttons peek out from around the corners? Probably not. Not in this angle. But if it did, it probably would have this color. This is probably not realistic. It's shown here. I'll try it for now. Whoa. There's my most expensive camera right hanging from this beam, so I need to stay still. The new iPad Air is pretty equivalent to the 2018 iPad Pro, Sticky Art is saying. Yes, it seems like the reviews for it are really good. And apparently it's very thin as well. The reviews definitely were super good for it. I'm excited for the next iPads because they just made this new chip and it makes everything run cooler. And especially when doing these live streams, that's a huge thing. I noticed that around 2-hour mark, the screen gets so hot that sometimes I get these sort of like glitches of the screen not recognizing where I'm painting with the stylus. So having a cooler iPad would like definitely help me, but it's not in any way necessary to keep upgrading your iPad every year. Like for example, between this iPad and the one that I had earlier, I've noticed absolutely no difference at all. Maybe a few more layers in super high resolution paintings, but that's absolutely it. No other difference. And I switched to Premiere Pro on this PC to do all my video editing, so I haven't done any video editing on the iPad anymore either, so the extra power hasn't really helped me that much. Ever used Clip Studio? If so, anything to say to anyone just now getting it? It's a good app for doing comics. That's it. But if you're not a like professional comic book artist, I would be very mindful of just how many buttons and features there are in it. More features doesn't make an app better for one specific thing. If you're just learning art, I would avoid Clip Paint Studio like a plague. But if you're a professional comic book artist, then you will probably benefit from those features. But definitely, I wouldn't recommend it as your first entry into digital art or art in general. Or Photoshop or Affinity Designer. If your idea is to start learning to draw digitally, those are the applications that I would not recommend for that purpose. That's not saying that those are bad programs. Like for example, I use Clip Paint Studio. I think it's great. But I've seen so many times that new artists just go completely crazy when they see an app that has tons of new features, and then they get overwhelmed by all the different buttons. And then there is this perception when you watch tutorials that you need to learn how to use all of them, which is not the case at all. Pranava is asking, what do you think is better, iPad Air or iPad Pro? Also, what size is better, 12.9 inches or 11 inches? Whatever is like reasonable for your budget. The 1 inch difference like doesn't make any difference to like how enjoyable it is to paint. In that aspect, I would consider what size are you comfortable carrying around with you everywhere. Because if you're not gonna have your iPad everywhere with you, then there's no point getting a huge one. It's too difficult to carry around. there is a round brush that is the default sketching brush in Clip Paint Studio that I like very much. I love drawing with that brush, and I haven't been able to replicate that in Procreate, so that it has its own qualities. Also, I love the fact that you can use those 3D models. I think you can import an OBJ file into Clip Paint Studio, and it will still be 3D. And for example, you could do a quick layout of a room and then use that to sketch, like for example, architecture with the drawing tools on top of it. I think for that sort of workflow, it's really amazing. But I think that's probably not most people that would benefit from it. Also, there are those like 3D human models, which I found to be like super generic looking, which is probably great, but I would prefer like more like eyeline definition in those. I guess it's mostly aimed at like anime type of art. I should say manga type of art. Past me would be so disappointed in myself. Do you watch anime? Not like actively. so many questions about the screen size and the version of the iPad. It's really not that important. Especially if I were to give any advice on that, it would be completely out of touch with like whatever your financial situation is. One thing that I will just like never get over is that some people wish, for example, Clip Paint Studio to be free or Procreate to be free, but if you drop like 1,000 and 200 euros on an iPad and then over 100 euros on an Apple Pencil, how in the hell is like a 10 euro application then the thing that will break the camel's back? Or some people have sent me that like, can you send me your brushes for free? I can afford them. Well, if you can't afford my brushes, like first of all, that shouldn't be your priority to begin with. Just don't buy them. And how do you have an iPad and not afford a brush set that costs like 2 cups of coffee? Like, in those situations, like, just save your money and maybe like prioritize your spending better so that you don't have to make those sort of decisions. Maybe don't get an iPad to begin with. You can always just draw on paper. That's cheaper. I mean, there's nothing more sad than somebody who just like spends the rest of their money on an iPad and then doesn't use it for art. If you're not already like drawing every day, then buying an iPad is probably not going to be the thing that will get you excited about art or buying anything. But if you want to make art, there are always affordable ways to do that. No matter where you live or what you do. We should try drawing like a chunk of iceberg here. Maybe then it's too much white things. I can't know if it will work if I don't try. Maybe like a surfboard. Surfboard would be super cool. The shape of them are cool. I'm gonna draw this leg like a real piece of ham, like a drumstick. I often see Vivi sitting in that position and she looks tasty. I think I still need like one shade of darker blue here to make the shadows here. If Apple releases new iPad, I will probably get that, and the reason will be just, and only just the reason will be these streams and the overheating issue. But it's never an issue when I'm painting by myself or when I'm making videos that are not live streams. So I think whatever I say to this hardware issue, people will think that it's some sort of like a endorsement that this iPad is better than this one. But if you don't have a YouTube channel and you're not doing videos, there's literally no reason to upgrade. Like for example, this like whole position, I wouldn't paint like this if I wasn't doing a video. My favorite position to paint is like on the couch, curled up like Samus Aran ball with the iPad on my lap. My favorite thing, but now I haven't been able to do that for years because it's possible to film. There's like some sort of like chunkiness in this bear that I really like, and I don't want to ruin that, so I'm just gonna let it be for now. Maybe later I could add some sort of like graphic stripes to this. But first I want to find a better color, maybe like some green, like this is the perfect green, is it? Maybe almost perfect green. Yes, like very pastely, not contrasty. Definitely won't be getting any Twitter clicks with this. This doesn't have like thumbnail value. Who cares? I can do pastely colors for once. Frank Johnson III, very serious name, Angry Mikko. How scared were you when starting your channel? I know I have years before I can start, but I can't even imagine the anxiety. I guess I had to be at that like very specific, comfortable place, because sometimes I feel like I should have started years ago, but that is not the case. I think if I had started this channel 10 years ago, I would be a very different person, and I don't think I would have the same community that I have now, because I just wouldn't have the same words to talk about my art. I think the price I had to pay for having this channel is all the difficulties that I went through before I started and realized that what art actually means to me. And I really started doing paintings again like a kid for myself. And I think that allowed me to kind of like have the confidence to start this channel. I know this sounds really serious, but I honestly think I would have been very unpleasant to watch 10 years ago. It would have been very unpleasant to see me struggling with all the stuff that I was struggling with. So, if I were to recommend anybody to like think about if you should start a YouTube channel or not, then I think you should, first of all, not expect anything. Because I didn't have anyone subscribing to my channel, and I'm honestly, this is not a joke, I'm honestly super grateful for the fact that like everybody just ignored me when I started, because I was so bad. It was so terrible. Even I can't watch those old videos. It's just like, ugh. And you go through this like whole learning phase of like understanding just how difficult video production is. Nothing can prepare you for that. But also I wanted to be sure that I can continuously produce artwork, to have videos. So I had few years where I had this like increased productivity first, where I just made tons and tons of art. And when I finally pressed the publish button and I started making YouTube videos, I knew that like even if I made videos that completely fail and are ignored, I would have so many more paintings to paint yet that I would eventually get better. I love this one advice from one of the like the technical YouTube channels that said that you had to get the 100 bad videos out of the way first. Because during the first 100 videos you are going to make such like embarrassing mistakes that later it's going to be much easier. But if you approach it with that attitude that like, okay, I'm just going to fail miserably for the first 100 videos at least, then you won't put so much pressure on yourself to do well. I think the first, not even 1000, but like first 100 subscribers is like a lot harder to get. And if you are browsing YouTube, you'd never see those channels. You never get recommended somebody who has like under 1000 subscribers. So those channels exist. There are millions of channels where people are making content for YouTube, and even if you search that specific topic, you won't be seeing in the search results. There's so much competition, and you never really understand this aspect about Google and YouTube before you start a YouTube channel. And even if you do like keyword research and so on, it doesn't matter because you have no keyword search authority at all. So even if you make a specific video for a specific problem, it won't appear in search. And I think that's something that normal people never get to see or understand about YouTube. I don't want to like scare anybody off from doing this, because obviously there are tons and tons of like cool things about making YouTube videos, and for me definitely like the creative aspect about it is something that I enjoy like a lot. One thing that I didn't expect to enjoy as much is, like, for example, all the color grading for my videos. Like, for example, whenever you see talking head video of me in any of my videos, I love color grading those. Not because I like looking at my own face, but because I love playing with colors and doing all kinds of like creative stuff. I know it has like no impact on how well a video does or not. It's just something that I enjoy a lot. And for example, right here, there's like one of my lamps right behind me, and it's creating this sort of like fringe effect for my head. And you probably see this a lot in my own art. I do a lot of this sort of like glowing lights. So the same aspect about painting that I like about video production as well. And it doesn't matter if the colors are in a painting or in a video. I just love playing with color so much that makes video editing also very fun for me. And sometimes when I'm stuck on an edit that it just doesn't seem to go anywhere, I just pick one of the clips and I do a color grade to it, and already I start enjoying the process a lot more, and then I can proceed to more productive things. I think I need to like later. Oh, I stuck these two together. Oh my god, I'm such an idiot. Should have paid attention. Oh, I'll fix it later. I'll crush those together for now. I don't know if that answered your question at all, but like if you have any questions about starting an art YouTube channel, I can definitely help you out with those questions, because honestly, this information is so hard to find. One of the things, like for example, like how to even do top-down video, like I completely had to figure that stuff out on my own, because none of the help were for art channels and for art purposes on how to do like Procreate YouTube stuff. That's very specific, and that is going to be a challenge, so I can definitely help with those. Also, having an Instagram page or account, I think that is like the perfect place to start, because on Instagram you can also do video content, and especially short form video content, and I think that's the perfect way to start. I started by doing a lot of Instagram stories, and at one point I just noticed that like there is no time for me to like convey certain things or information. Like for example, any of the process videos that I do on this channel, they make no sense if I kind of like crush them down. And sometimes I have done TikTok videos out of my YouTube videos, and it's just like there's no information in it whatsoever, because you can't do the same sort of like in-depth look at some of the aspects about painting. Even in a 30-minute video, I will get a lot of comments about like, you should have told me how you did this or that thing, but 30 minutes goes by like that when you're doing a huge painting with tons of different elements. Also, as you know, I think having names for your painting is super important. I think a painting without a name, that people can see what the name of that painting is, to me, I just don't consider that as finished piece of artwork at all. So I need to switch the these two around, because I noticed that I'm looking at a completely different direction. Okay, makes more sense. So for me, when a painting has a name, I think it's a really important part of that entire piece. And YouTube is terrible for this sort of an idea, because as I quickly discovered, I can't just name my videos the name of the painting. So what I have been doing more lately is that I start the video with the name of the painting. So I know that it's not something that people ask for, but I think it's important for the piece, because every one of my paintings has a name, and I think it's important to like give it some space and a theme for people to know what to expect from the video, or just give a mood. What is the painting going towards? And I enjoy making those like intro sequences, whether it's just text, different colors or something. That usually takes a lot of time, but I enjoy that process a lot. And it's one of those things that like nobody asks for, but I enjoy doing it just because it's like creative and fun. I get to play with type and colors and animations. I'm really happy about the title sequence for my next video. I learned new techniques for it. Try to read a few comments as I have some coffee. I have started the channel. Hope my art will get better one day. Well, I'm not gonna be brave enough to try to pronounce the name, but good luck with your channel. I know that it can be very daunting in the beginning. Just behind you, that's a good username, is saying, "Hi Mikko, do you think I can learn digital art without diving into the traditional paper? Not being lazy." Are you sure you're not being lazy? But I'm more inclined toward digital. If yes, then how do I start? You should watch that Arms of Eternity video. What is the name of that thing? How to start landscape painting. Like that technique that I'm using there, how to learn landscape painting. I should have said this in the video itself, but it's how I learned landscape painting, and it's how I learned to draw pretty much anything. And if there is a subject that I don't know how to draw, that's how I learn it. So that is the technique that I used. So watch that video. Also finish your pieces. By finishing I mean that have a name in your piece and publish them. Publish them online so that people can see them. If you don't publish them, you don't gain experience. I'm dead serious about this. I know that this might sound like really provoking idea to some, but I mean it. You have to publish your pieces. Somebody asked a very basic question where I had no other answer than like endless repetition. And I know that this is not something that you want to hear, but endless repetition. What is this painting for? Good question. I don't know. What does it have to be for? For fun? Okay, I'm gonna do like a really quick horizon to the background to have something there. Maybe there could be like an purple mauve atmospheric mist. Chennai Velasco is asking, how do you stop yourself from getting overly detailed in your paintings? Time management. If I don't paint things fast enough, I will run out of money. This is very boring advice, because most people probably won't have this problem. But you can kind of like set yourself very hard time limits to simulate this sort of like same sort of pressure. When I had that year when I painted 200 paintings, I knew that like if I was painting the same painting for more than 3 days, I would be kind of like eating up time that I don't have. So every 3 days I would have to have a painting done. Otherwise I would be letting go of my goal. So I was very strict with myself. Is it really that dark? Yes. I can use this shade. It looks almost gray here. Maybe it's just optical or blending. Am I doing on time? Well, I know that I won't have everything finished by the end of this stream, but I will try to get as much as possible so that I can just focus on polish after. But if I just made paintings that I can finish in the session that is possible for live streams, then that would limit all these live streams to be specific type of illustrations, and I think that would be pretty boring for everybody. Who wants to see an artist do the same style every time? Probably most people, but for me, that's not an option. Okay, I think the screenshot button is going to overlap with whatever shape is happening here. I think it's around here-ish. This is just a guesstimation. Okay, this is about the position of the screenshot button. Then here is another roughly around here, the home button. Maybe I could do some sort of like a fun color accent for it later. I'll slap something on an additive layer just to test it out. Yeah, and then maybe additive, then glow. I think it will kind of like hold that other end of the composition together. I think the great thing about this brush is that like it forces me to make really drastic decisions quickly. I think some brushes like Honey, for example, they can be more tricky because they require a very specific idea that you're going for. Because the translucency of Honey makes that brush better suited for something where you are doing multiple brush strokes over the same area. So if you're indecisive about something, that will look bad in the painting. You're not going over the same areas multiple times. But here I'm just like basically drawing the whole painting in as I go. I don't like this blockiness of this sky. I'm gonna show what I mean. Like this, I think there's this like one chunk of clouds, another chunk of clouds, and a third, and they're roughly around like the same height, and these two, they're almost the same size as well, so that doesn't look great in the composition, so I wanna break that apart. How do you start commissions? Snails are silly is asking. Where do people contact you for them? And how do you organize payment, price, and shipping? Well, for payment, I have a different system for Finnish payments and commissions that come from outside of Finland. The commissions that come from outside of Finland, I use PayPal for those. And for Finnish, I use my own accounting system and accountant service. Most of the commissions come through Instagram, so people are asking me on Instagram how much is a commission, and then we negotiate the details of that, and then I either agree to it or I don't. In most cases I don't, because lately I've noticed that like it's really bad for my mental health to accept commissions that are a bad fit for me. So I try to be mindful of that. So I try not to like haggle down my price for my commissions anymore. So if somebody just can't afford my commissions, then we'll just focus on the other people. And most of all, I can't answer all of the requests. So there are some people who are asking for a commission, and this is why I said about that Discord server idea that I don't have time to have a Discord server where I would talk to people and like hang out, because I can't even answer all of like the potential clients, and that of course would be a priority over something that is just free and for fun. So I hope that people understand that it's not that I think that I'm too good to have a Discord channel. If I had that amount of time, of course that sounds super fun, and I would love nothing more than to just spend my days talking with people about art and their paintings. Like, in an ideal world, that is the way that I would spend my time. I do have to work. But as time goes on, I noticed that like some people get annoyed by the fact that I am unavailable to certain things, and I just can't keep being sorry for that. Because otherwise that would mean that I'm apologizing for everybody all the time, that I can't be everywhere at once. And that's not my fault. It's really not my fault, and I try not to take responsibility for that and just feel bad about it, because then I would be feeling bad about not being able to do everything all the time. So I have to be more realistic about not being able to be everywhere at once. And nobody else is going to like understand the situation or give me that permission, so I have to do it for myself. I don't know if that makes sense, but I remember when I was starting out back in the old days of DeviantArt, and I remember that I used to think that I will never be so busy that I won't have time to answer to every single comment. I was just so naive. How do you work out the cost of every art piece? Jack Robinson is asking. Well, it's the work, usually. The work that goes into it. That's why I usually don't have like a flat rate for all the commissions, so I need to know the details of what it is. And then I take into just account how fast am I doing those sort of like topics or themes in a painting. And then I will have a better idea of like how much time it's going to take. And it's about the time commitment, really. Sometimes if there's like a new technique that I need to learn to do the painting at all, then I also kind of like count in extra time to learn that thing. Once I agreed to do like this whole logotype for a company, and I just said that like I don't know how to do fonts, and I said that like for this amount of money I will learn and I will make you one, but you will have to pay me for learning it. So I did. Other things that affect this price is value-added tax, which is 24%. And if you think about it, that's quite a lot of money. So that has to be calculated into the price. Otherwise, I would just pay that. And I can't agree to make commissions where I end up like giving money away to do the commissions. So there are like certain limits. Like for example, if I did a commission for like, let's say 400 euros, then that would mean that I am giving that person money in addition of making them a painting. Even if they pay me 400 euros, that it would still end up meaning that I gave my own money to give that person a painting. And I would be poorer than I started. in most cases. I'm sorry if this is inappropriate, but as an artist, where does the majority of your income come from? Like commissions? Is that a new monster from Monster Hunter Rise? Doesn't Monster Hunter Rise have some kind of a bear? The last 3 Monster Hunters have had the same bear in them, but I think Monster Hunter Rise trailer had a new one that I haven't seen before. And no, this isn't it, but I'm really excited about the new Monster Hunter. And just in general to be playing some damn games again. I really need to have some sort of like me time as well, where I'm just not doing anything productive. accidentally switched to the wrong layer again. This is why I prefer always working on one layer, not to have all of this hassle. Just no idea what this layer is even for. I'm just gonna delete it. Wait for the buttons there. X. No, it's useless. Be gone. Okay, what is this? Merge that too. One thing that I always have trouble with on any Nintendo games is the placement of the buttons. I always think that the A button should be where the B button is, and Y and X. That doesn't make any sense for me. And it always kind of like mixes up in my head with the X button of the PlayStation controller as well. I wish all the 3 different console manufacturers would just like together agree on the one button layout outside of any type of branding and just make life easier for all the gamers. I remember Microsoft once made this Pro controller that took out all the colors from the original Xbox controller, and that completely broke all of the QTE sequences in action games that were still unfortunately part of the gaming scene in 2010s. Is being a graphic designer a very energy demanding job? Yes. I personally wouldn't be able to do it. Like any graphic design is usually it's fun for when I'm doing it for myself. Like for all my social media content, I love doing all the graphic design stuff, but I haven't taken on any clients for graphic design jobs in the last 2 years, just because the detail part of it is just what kills me. When you do a vector and you make sure that everything is properly aligned, and then you get a feedback round where they want few more tweaks, and then you have to do everything, like all the alignments from the beginning, and that stuff is always just soul-sucking for me. So when I'm doing it for myself, I think that is super fun. But any graphic design, like lately, I haven't done for any clients those commissions, just illustrations. How do you go about getting ideas for drawing? Just keep painting. They will come. And when you don't have an idea, paint something more boring, but you will have to paint all the ideas that come to your head. Otherwise, new ones won't come. You will have to teach your brain how to listen to those ideas that are there, and your basic instinct will probably be to say no to most of them, and that means that you won't even hear the ideas as they come because they seem like not that important. So you have to have a lot of like humility and learn that this is not really about you and you're not really even in charge at all. To me, I think how ideas come to most people's head is that you have this huge amount of experiences in your life and all your memories and everything that you have seen and experienced and seen on TV and the games that you have played and the music you have listened to. All of those ideas kind of like float around in your memory space, and when they connect, those are the new ideas. And they're always like a combination of like some things that you have experienced or seen, but you have no control over what ideas cause these like associations to happen. And there's even brain research on this topic that artists have wilder associations. They make like bigger imagination leaps between two different, very different topics, and you can develop this like a muscle, and that's how you become more imaginative. So please don't tell yourself that like I'm just not that imaginative. That is probably true, but that's not a situation that you have to stay in. It's like a muscle, and unless you choose to train that muscle to be better, it won't get better. So you can say that like some people are just more imaginative than others, but you have to give them credit for doing the work of becoming that imaginative. And by doing so, you will understand that you can also do that same work for yourself. But it requires a lot of like humility and work to understand that you are not driving this association process. You are merely observing it. And I think my job as an artist is to do like the manual work of getting the stuff on canvas. Like it's my job to know what colors go together and how to put the idea into a 2D composition on canvas. Because when somebody comes to you, like for example a client, and tells that like they have a very clear vision of how the picture is supposed to look, I 100% guarantee that that is not true. That is never true. That like for example if you have a very clear idea that like this is exactly how the painting should look like, but then when all the like the real world stuff like composition and color and volume placement comes into play, you understand that you were given like just few pieces of the puzzle of what the idea is, and you filled out all those gaps with this sort of like fantasy of the emotion that it gave you, but it's not a finished painting. An actual artist has to make the finished painting. So that's also one thing that you really want to like stay on the lookout for with clients, because you definitely want to avoid getting into situations where a client comes to you and says that like they have a very clear idea of what the painting needs to be, and then they give you this like bible of PDF documents of what the painting is supposed to look like when they think that they know. But in reality, if they're not an artist, they probably haven't given thought to any of those things like color composition and how many things that painting can even have in a specific style that are visible. So you have to communicate in those situations that like your painting can be about like mostly just one thing if you want it to have the maximum visual impact. You can't have like a shopping list of items that you need to kind of like push in, or all those individual aspects will lose purpose and meaning and visual impact. So if the client can prioritize those things, then it's impossible to give them something that they would be happy with. And I have done enough commissions that I know to ask for these things beforehand now, rather than to just trust that everything will be okay. I have like more confidence now to say that like I want this to be a successful mission for you, so I'm gonna have to push for details on what things you actually want to have in this piece and what to exclude. And also, but like, just be okay with if it seems like it's not a good fit, that it's okay to let a client go and seek another artist. Maybe you can even recommend somebody that would be better suited for that style or theme or type of workflow. But when I was younger, I had this like huge like horror about things not working out with a client, that I thought like if the client project isn't like 100% successful, that I will never find work ever again. And this is just not true. A lot of beginner artists have this idea that there is some sort of like a world of professional commissions and work that you just need to have like your foot in the door, and then work and money will just flow through it. And this is not the case. You will always have to like find new people that are interested in what you can offer them. And they usually will just have order 1 or 5 or 8 missions. They probably won't be like your regular clients, because who needs that much art, really? Unless you're like a game company, then you're truly a freelancer. I think I'm using the word freelancer wrong, because a freelancer is usually somebody that goes into a company and works for a specific project for a specific amount of time. And most people that call themselves freelancers, like me, I'm not really a freelancer. I'm a business owner and I provide illustration work for people and companies. And here's the minus. Wow, that is harsh contrast. I don't like that. Try this. Better. What are your thoughts on working with big companies such as gaming companies that require art? Well, the more that I made games, I started out in a very small company and it grew over the years into a much bigger company. And I think I always preferred the projects that had smaller teams. So the bigger the team was, the less I enjoyed doing that game. So the smallest projects were the most fun ones. So you see all these like big video game names quit their jobs in their like big companies, and then they start startups and start making like mobile games. I very much understand why that is, because they don't want to be part of the huge machine anymore. And you are doing this like cool leather jacket design, and then some person from England that has all the money says that they want to have, I don't know, leopard prints for some reason. Like, for example, I saw this story about Insomniac that apparently one of the big producers had said that like Ratchet should have stripes. Ratchet shouldn't have stripes on his ears. And he even apparently had said that like, over my dead body will this be made, that there will be no stripes in Ratchet's ears. And I don't know if this is true or just a rumor that Dead Price said this, but given what I experienced in the video game industry, it wouldn't surprise me. And just imagine what it must be like for that character designer. Like, I respect everything that Dead Price does, but he's probably not the person that should be making decisions about character designs, if ever. Sorry. No, I'm not sorry. have to let out this feature soon. I need to take Vivi out for a walk, so I need to end the stream soon, but I think I have a pretty clear idea what this painting is going to be. I just want to get a few more elements before I give you your food. That's probably what she's waiting for. I want there to be like water droplets. Am I having this on a new layer? Yes. So what I still want to do with this painting is that I want to have like water droplets over these elements to kind of like blend the Switch world with the real world and have more detail of the reflections. But that will take hours and hours, so I wouldn't have time to do this in the live stream anyway. So that's one thing. I'm pretty happy with the basic look of the clouds, so I don't think I will change that too much. I'm just gonna look at it upside down to make sure that it's working. And then maybe figure out this whole area here and have some sort of like sense to this waterscape in the Switch world. Are your commissions very similar to the style of paintings you do in your videos? Yes. Yes, this is one of those things that like I have discussions first with the clients before I take on the commissions, because I want to make sure that they are a good fit for me specifically, because I can't do all the commissions anyway, so it makes sense for me to do commissions that I think that I can provide the most value to the client. So choosing those clients, I think that requires a lot of work. And that's also part of the pricing, that I need to charge for the time that I go through like these tons of different people and like negotiate what to do next. That's also working time, and you have to, if you're a artist, you have to make sure that like you get paid for your time making those conversations, because all the clients that you don't end up working for, they will not pay you any money for this time that you spend negotiating these projects. So make sure that you don't waste too much time, because time is really the thing that is the most important resource. Okay, I will have to stop babbling and tend to my little beast. Will you record the rest of the process of this painting? I don't know. Probably not. It's very important to have, the ancient lich is saying, it's very important to have a strong creative and art directors to get a nice buffer between everyone's opinion and actual people working on the art itself, particularly the concept artists. Yeah, I would have a lot of thoughts on this, but I really need to go. Anton is saying, ei tarvitse vastaa suomeksi, jos näet, mutta katoin sun Procreate pixel art videon ja auttoi paljon. Some Finnish person was helped by my Procreate pixel art tutorial. Great to hear. Also cool that you got the Prostan. By the way, if anybody has like done the pixel art tutorial and is having any problems with it, I promise you that for 99% certainty, if you have any technical questions, I have already answered that technical question in the comments of that specific video. It's basically a tech support area for the whole technique. So anyway, I need to go. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you in the next one. Go paint stuff. Bye.